Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Dati Swapadadikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahraya Gunatam Vidam Tam Sajivam साधवैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां करुणालयिता श्रीविशाखान्तं च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome all for today's Bhagavad Gita class. We are in chapter number 4 and the verse number is 23. So before we start this chapter, we'll just recap. So in this chapter, we saw that how Krishna is giving transcendental knowledge to Arjuna. Because in the previous verse, it was said that to curb lust, one should have spiritual knowledge or one should deliberate on spiritual intent. So he's giving what spiritual intents. And then he describes the saintly kings, how this Bhagavad Gita knowledge was given in Parampara system and how this Parampara got broken, and that is the reason why Arjuna was chosen again to start the new Parampara. And Arjuna asked one important question that the sun god, Vivaswan, is born before you. How can I understand that you spoke the science to me? And then Krishna said that many births we both have taken, but I remember all and you do not remember. And then Krishna says that I appear again and again whenever there is decline religious principles and then establish the Dharma. And then he says that the purpose is to deliver the pious and eliminate the miscreants. And one who knows Krishna Tattvata or very as it is, then what happens is he also does not have to take birth in material world. And then what is the symptom that one knows Tattvata Krishna? That weak rag and bhaya. So, and Krodha. So this will not there. That is attachment, fear, and anger. This will be absent in the person who knows Krishna as it is. And then Krishna says that how Krishna reciprocates the devotee's mood, and different people have different relation of Krishna. And then Krishna says that I have created this four varna, the varna system, but he is not entangled. And there is no work which affects Krishna, but still Krishna does the work. And then he says that this karma, akarma, and vikarma are very difficult to understand. And one could understand that uh, this is karma in akarma and akarma in karma, then he is truly knowledge. And then he says that how to give up the jnana or jnana which burns with actions. And then he says about the Arudha stage and Arudha stage. So, what is the sadhana of both? So, this he speaks. And in this stage of perfection, we saw that the different qualities which is shown that a person out that is free of desires, self-control, is free from sense of proprietorship, acts only for the benefit of life. He does not incur any sin. And he says satisfied with what comes on his own accord. He is tolerant of dualities and free from envy, and studies both success and failure. Never entangled, even though he's performing actions. So in this section only, we'll see today's verse number 23, where further qualities of a person in the stage of perfection is being described. So let's go through verse number 23. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavastita chetasa yajnaya karma sangram praviliyate. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and is fully situated in transcendent knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. So here also he is unattached to the modes of material nature, then fully situated in transcendent knowledge. Second thing, and then acts for the sake of yajna or acts for the sake of Krishna. So these three things happen, then his work does not incur any reactions, and his work is entering into transcendent or in spiritual activity. So here it is given. So becoming fully Krishna conscious, one is freed from all dualities and thus is free from the contamination of material modes. He can become liberated because he knows his conscious position in relation with Krishna, and thus his mind cannot be drawn from Krishna consciousness. Consequently, whatever he does for Krishna, who is the premier Vishnu. Therefore, all his works are technically sacrifices because sacrifice aimed at satisfying the Supreme Person Vishnu Krishna. The resultant reactions to such work certainly merge into transcendence, and one does not suffer material effects. So, this purport is self-explanatory that he does everything for Krishna, and therefore there is no reaction, and therefore one does not have suffer material effects, but one gets spiritual credits. Now, verse number 24 is a bit difficult verse to understand, but we'll just translate this with simple terms. So there's a word jugglery all in this verse. Let's recite this verse and then we'll understand this verse. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmanam Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gandavyam Brahma karma samadhinam. So this word Brahma may mean so many things. It may mean Atma, it may mean Paramatma, it may mean Krishna. So this Brahma means so many things. But here the word Brahma means spiritual. The word this is spiritual, and therefore uh, the transition is a person fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain spiritual kingdom because of his full consciousness spiritual activities in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered to the same is spiritual nature. So Brahma Arpan means by spiritual oblations and Havir means instrument, that is spiritual instruments. Brahma means fire, in spiritual fire, and Brahmana Hotam is a person, that is spiritual person. Brahmana Tene Gandhavya means he will attain spiritual kingdom. Gantavya means place, and Brahma means spiritual. So he will attain spiritual place. And Brahma Karma Samadhina. That means Brahma is a spiritual and karma is activities. Samadhina means absorb. So he is absorbed in spiritual activities. So I will just repeat again. Brahma Arpanam means spiritual oblations. So in fire we put some oblations. So we are putting oblations of spiritual activity. Brahma Havir means Brahma means spiritual, Havir means instruments. So Brahma instrument, spiritual instruments, and okay, yeah, Brahma Havir means spiritual instruments. Then Brahma Agnu means the fire. So offering spiritual fire. This is spiritual fire. And Brahmana Hutam means spiritual person. This is this spiritual and this person, Hutam is person. And Brahmeva, that is Tene Gantavya means the Brahma is spiritual and Gantavya means place. So he goes to spiritual place and Brahma Karma Samadhana. So he's absorbed in spiritual activities. Karma is activities, Samadhana means absorbed. So he's absorbed in spiritual activities. So this is the meaning. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities in which the consumption is absolute and that which is offered is also of spiritual nature. So here Prabhupada describes how activities can lead to spiritual goal, and here he describes various activities in Krishna consciousness in the following verse. So conditioned soul is the entangled material condition soul to act in material atmosphere, and yet he has to get out of such an environment. So conditioned soul is in material contamination. He is acting in material atmosphere, but he has to come out of this material atmosphere. And the process by which conditioned soul can get out of material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada gives an example that suppose some patient is suffering from disorder of bowels because of excessing using the milk. And another product is curd, which is made of milk, is only used to cure the person. Similarly, We are entering on this material world. We are in material world, but same material world can help us to go to spiritual world. And therefore, uh, the process is generally known as yajna or activities simply meant for satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna. The more the activities of material world are performed in Krishna consciousness or for Vishnu only, the more the atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. The word Brahma means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual. The rays in our transcendental body are called Brahma Jyoti, his spiritual effulgence. So everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyoti, but when the Jyoti is covered by illusion, Maya or sense illusion, it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming aid of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contribution, the result, all combined together, Brahma absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter, the doctrine for the cause of absolute truth regains its spiritual quality. So Krishna consciousness is the process of converting this the illusory consciousness into Brahman or the Supreme. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yajna or sacrifice for the absolute. In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, contribution, consumption, the performer or leader of the performance, and the result of the ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the absolute, the supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. So I hope it's a very technical verse, but simply we can understand that everything is spiritual. The oblations which you put, the instruments, the fire is spiritual, person is spiritual, and therefore because everything is spiritual, one attains spiritual kingdom because it's absorbing spiritual activities. Uh, Now, after explaining the that sacrifice confers Brahman, so now what are different types of sacrifices done? So that will be explained from verse number 25. So one is who does this different type of people who does sacrifice, and second, what are different sacrifices required by a person. So let's see from verse number 25. Daivameva pare yajna yogina paryupasate brahmagna pare yajna yagne eva upajivati. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigod by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifice in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. So, this karma yogis, they worship demigods by different sacrifices. And jnana yogis offer sacrifice into fire of Brahman. So, if you see the jnana yogis, their main goal is to reach Brahman. And karma yogis, they want to enjoy, so they want to go to different swargas and all. And therefore, they worship the demigods by sacrifices. And this jnana yogi, they offer sacrifice into the fire of Brahman. That is for the spiritual world. So it described about a person in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi or first class mystic. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifice in the worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice the Supreme Brahman or impersonal features of the Supreme Lord. So there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of different categories. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord Vishnu, which is also known as yajna. All the different varieties of sacrifice can be placed within the two primary divisions, namely sacrifice of worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. So just two category, everything is described that whether the sacrifice is done so that more worldly possession can be acquired, or the sacrifice is done so that one may acquire transcendental knowledge. So either material or spiritual. So both the places sacrifice is required. Those who are in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice the material possessions satisfied demigods, Indra, sun god, etc. So devotees, they do all the sacrifice, or they give everything material or anything for satisfying Krishna. Whereas others satisfy the demigods. And others who are impersonally sacrifice identity by merging into the existence of impersonal Brahman. So other Gyanis and all, they want to merge into the Brahman, and therefore they sacrifice the identity and they want that we are now in Brahman. That's what they say. The demigods are powerful living entities appointed by Supreme Lord for the maintenance and supervision of the all material functions, like the heating, watering, and lighting of the universe. Those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices. According to the Vedic scriptures, they are called Bahya Ishwaravari, Bahu Ishwaravari, or believers in many gods. But others who worship the impersonal feature of the absolute truth and regard the forms of demigods as temporary, sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fire, and thus their end their individual existence by merging into the existence of the um, supreme. Such impulse sacrifice that time in philosophical speculation to understand the transcendence of the supreme. In other words, the fruity work is for the worker sacrifice the material possessions for material enjoyment, whereas the impersonally sacrifices his material designation with a view to merge into the existence of the supreme. For the impersonal, the fire of sacrifice the supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self being consumed in the fire of by the fire of Brahman. So that is they give up the identity. So impersonalists or the jnani is what they do. They give up the identity that I am now nothing, but they merge into supreme. So that is why we said that they uh, in the altar of sacrifice they offer the self. The Krishna conscious person like Arjuna, however, sacrificed everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus all the material positions are as well as his own self, everything is sacrificed for Krishna. This is thus his first class yogi, but he does not lose individual existence. So basically, in this purport, there are different types of worshippers. The first is karmis, the second is jnanis, and third are the bhaktas. So karmi is what they do. They do different fruitive activities to satisfy demigods, so that the demigods may give some material positions for them to enjoy, or they may elevate to spiritual kingdoms and there they enjoy. And they say there is nothing more than this. Just do pious activities, go to Swarga, and when the pious activities are finished, come from Swarga, come back to the earth, and again do pious activities so that you can go to Swarga. Like this, they say there is nothing more than this, and this cycle goes on. And then there are the Gyanis, or they want to move into Supreme Brahman. So they say that the Supreme Brahman is the highest. And what is Supreme Brahman? It is the effulgence or the light from coming from the body of Krishna. So therefore, then they want to merge because they have not got very good experience, or they do not have the experience the rasa part, the friendship with Krishna or Vasalya and all. They have not experienced, and therefore they want to merge in Brahman. And third are the bhaktas who want to go to the supreme abode, and therefore all the spiritual activities they do is for this purpose. So this is what it means. Now 26. Now in above that Karmis and Yogis. Now in 26, these are brahmacharis and grihasthas which are described. How do they sacrifice? So brahmacharis, what they do is they give their senses in the fire of mind control. The brahmacharis are not allowed sense gratification, and therefore what their call is to control the mind and senses. Whereas grihasthas are they can do some sense gratification, and therefore they offer sense objects in the fire of senses. So that is how they sacrifice. Let's see verse number 26. श्रोत्रादीनि इन्द्रियाणि अन्ये संयगाग्निषु जुह्वति शब्दादीन् विषयान् अन्ये इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control. And the others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the object of senses in the fire of the senses. So the member of four divisions of human life, brahmachari, grahastha, vanprastha, sannyasi, are meant to become perfect yogi athletes. Since human life is not meant for enjoying sensation like the animals, the four orders of human life are so arranged that one may become perfect in spiritual life. The brahmachari students under the care of bona fide spiritual master control the mind by abstaining from sense gratification. A brahmachari hears only words of concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle of understanding. Therefore, the pure brahmachari engages fully in Hare Nama Kirtana, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibration of material sounds, and the hearing is engaged in the transcendent vibe sound of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Similarly, the house who have some license for sense gratification perform such acts with great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, meat eating, and general things are general things of human society. But a regular householder does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other sex gratification. Marriage on the principles of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society because that is the way for restricted sex life. So, Bhagavad is saying that this restricted unattached sex life is also a kind of yajna because the restricted householder sacrifices general tendency towards sense gratification for higher transcendent life. So generally, grahasthas allowed sense gratification, but they do not take so much advantage. They do some sense gratification, and that is regulated life, and therefore they enjoy restricted sex life according to the codes of dharma only for begetting a good Krishna conscious child. And therefore, they are also grahastha brahmacharis actually, because they are acting on the principles of Bhagavad Gita. And in this way, they also restrict their sex life. So they can do sense gratification, but it's not unlimited, it is also limited. Now, in verse number 27, these are the followers of Patanjali Yoga system. They offer the function of their senses into and says like that. Sarvanindhyani karmani prana karmani chapare atma samyamya yogagno juvati jnana deepite. Others who are interested in achieving the self-vision through control of mind and senses offer the functions of all senses and of the life breath as obligation to fire the controlled mind. So what they are saying is this yoga system conceived by Patanjali is referred here. So this Patanjali system, and in Patanjali system, yoga Sutra of Patanjali, the soul is called the Pratyagyatma and Paragatma. So as long as the soul is attached to sensation, it is called Paragatma. As soon as soul becomes detached from sensation, it is called Pratyagatma. So in the initial stage of Paragatma, and it's known, and Pratyagatma means it has reached destination. So this Patanjali Yoga, what they do is here, they achieve silence through control of mind and senses. And they offer the function of senses the life with obviously the power of controlled mind. The Pratyagatma is withdrawn from activities in matter. The senses interact with the sense objects like hearing for ear for hearing, see eyes for seeing and nose for sight, tongue for tasting, hand for touching, and all of them are thus engaged in activities outside the self. They are called the function of prana vayu, and the apan vayu goes downward, the vayan vayu acts to shrink and expand. Saman vayu as a udan. So I think I should explain this vayu part. So there are around different kinds of vayu or the air which is in our body. So each vayu has different functions. The air which we breathe is not the same. So some air goes upwards, some goes downwards, some goes sideways, and has different functions. So here, if we see, there is apana vayu. So this apana vayu, it goes downwards. So and then this vyana vayu acts to shrink and expand, and saman vayu helps to equilibrate the things. And Udana Vayu, it goes upwards. And when one is enlightened, one engages all this in searching for self-realization. Then in verse number 28, the eightfold mysteries of the yoga which is practiced, that is done. And the Swadhyaya part is also done. This Swadhyaya Yajna of studying the Vedas to advance in spiritual knowledge. Dravya Yajna, Sapo Yajna, Yoga Yajna, Sata Pare, Swadhyaya Jnana Yajnascha, Yataya Samsita Vrata. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying Vedas to advance in transcendent knowledge. So, some become enlightened by giving all the possessions in charity, and some do severe austerities, and some eightfold, they practice eightfold mysticism, and the students in all they study in the Vedas to advance in spiritual knowledge. So the persons who are sacrificing the position in the form of charities in it. So they give some kind of charities like market community, or they open dharmashala, annakshetra, atrishala, anathalaya, vidyalaya, all. So there are so many people, they do charity. So this is called Dravmaya Yajna. And the others, what they do is they accept some kind of austerity, such as Chandramaya and Chaturmasa Yajna. So what happens during this month, the eating and all, the going out, when so many things are restricted. And we see people here also in India, so many people follow Chaturmas and they do so many austerities. And then, like your example given that they did not shave for 4 months and they will remain separate, they will roam outside different places of pilgrimage and all. They will eat only certain foods, not eat much, and does not eat twice in a day, and does not leave home also sometimes. And like this, they sacrifice the comforts of life and call Tapomaya Yajna. And there are other mystic yogis like Patani system for money, there's absolute, or do ya Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. So Ashtanga Yoga, Hatha Yoga are different yogic postures or body exercise which you do for long time. And this way to perfect the life. And some travel to all sanctified places of pilgrimage. Some go to different pilgrimage places. And it's called Yoga Yagya. And there are others who engage in the study of different Vedic literatures, the Upanishad and Vedanta. So these are students who study different literatures so that they can do Swadhyaya. And this is also Yajna. So Yajna means sacrifice or doing something to achieve the Supreme Personality or the goal which they want, maybe the Swarga or maybe absolute whatever it is. So for that, achieving the goal, they do different sacrifice or they do different work. And so your students also study so that they get knowledge and they get enlightenment and again go back to God. So all these yogis are faithfully engaged in different sacrifice and are seeking higher states of life. Krishna consciousness is, however, is different from this because it's the direct service of Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any of the above mentioned type of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. That is Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. So a person becomes devotee with because of the mercy of another devotee. So the devotee has possessed Krishna and he gives Krishna to others, and therefore bhakti, one can get bhakti only through different bhaktas. Otherwise, after doing so many other sacrifices, charity and all, piety and all, one may not get bhakti. So bhakti is given because of Agya Sukriti, and Agya Sukriti are some association with pure devotees. And therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all these other activities. Now, in this verse number 29, this pranayam is explained how to do pranayam. So we do this kumbhak and rechak, we all do. So we close the one nostril and then take breathe and then stop for a second and then remove the air from another nostril. So maybe we take air from the left nostril, stop somewhere and then come up with right nostril. So this is called pranayam and this is explaining this verse number 29. Apane juvati pranam प्राणे अपानम तथा परे प्राणापानं गतिरुद्ध्वा प्राणायाम परायणा अपारे नियताहार प्राणं प्राणेषु जुह्वति. See others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance. Practice by different offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others curtailing the eating process offer the outgoing breath into the itself as the sacrifice. So in the beginning, they practice Hatha Yoga, different sitting postures, and then this breathing. So this apana air goes downward and the prana air goes upward. So one is going upward and one is going downward. So what they do is, see here, the pranayama yogi practice breathing the opposite way until the currents are utilized into the puraka equilibrium. So offering the exalted breath. So I will just explain this. Puraka means prolonged inhalation. So when we do inhalation, it's called puraka. And rechaka means prolonged exhalation. Okay. Puraka means prolonged inhalation. Rechaka means prolonged exhalation. And kumbhaka means stopping the breath after inhaling or exhaling. So suppose we are taking the breath, it's called puraka from one nostril. Then stopping means kumbhaka, that we have done kumbhaka, and then releasing back for another nostril or a long prolonged exhalation is called rechaka. So this is all is explained in this verse. That's all. Then in verse number 30, the main purpose, why people do so many different types of sacrifices. So now from verse number 25, 29, the different sacrifices are explained. So from verse number 30 to 33, why these sacrifices are done? What is the purpose of the sacrifice is explained. So verse number 30 explains that this, by doing this sacrifice, what happens is the sinful reactions are destroyed. Let's see this verse number 30. सर्वेऽपि एते यज्ञविदो यज्ञशापीतकल्मषा यज्ञाशिष्टामृतो भूयो यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम्. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. So all this sacrifice done so that they can be relieved of the sinful reactions. So whatever the sinful things are done in the life, because everybody does some or other sinful things unknowingly or unknowingly. So therefore, by doing this sacrifice, what happens is they are clean of all sinful reactions. So it is found that the common aim of all is to control the senses. Sense gratification is the root cause of material existence, and therefore, unless and until one is situated on a platform apart from sense gratification, there is no chance of being elevated to an eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life. This platform is the eternal atmosphere of Brahman atmosphere, and all the above sacrifices help one to become cleansed of sinful reactions of material existence. By this advancement in life, not only one does not become happy and opulent in his life, but also in the end he enters into the eternal kingdom of God, either merging the impersonal Brahman or associating with the supreme personality of Godhead Krishna. So in this way, whatever of sacrifices is done, they are done so that one may attain the spiritual goal or may go back to Godhead. So for us, we have our own process, like devotees chant Hare Mantra, then they read Bhagavatam and they do different verses and all. And therefore, very simple process than what is there here. And one can go back to God by doing such process. Then verse number 31 says that without doing sacrifice, one cannot live happily anywhere. So verse 31. Nayam lokasti ayagyasa kuto anya purusattama. O best of Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? So wherever we are, we have to do some sacrifice. Otherwise, one will not be happy in this life also and in other life also. So whatever form of materialization one is in, one is invariably ignorant of his real situation. In other words, existence material world is due to multiple reactions of sinful lives. And ignorance is the cause of sinful life, and sinful life is the cause of one's dragging into the material existence. The human form of life is only loophole by which one can get out of this entanglement. So if one wants to get out of this material life, material world, then the only way is to use this human form of life uh, for self-realization. Otherwise, what happens is uh, we will go into sensitive activities. And the Vedas are also made for the same purpose. So they also give direction point. They also point out different path of religion, economic comfort, and then in the class to get out of this material world. So dharma, artha, kama, and then moksha. So and the different kinds of sacrifice come and also solves the economic problems. So by performance of year, we can have enough food, enough milk, etc. Even if there is so-called increase of population. So actually, the increase of population does not bring any problem. What happens is the majority do not do any sacrifice or any yajna, then there's scarcity of food. If we do proper yajnas, then what happens is there's enough food and everything. There is no problem. And this population explosion is a myth actually. We can feed more than 10 times of what is the present population. So there is no problem of land and everything. But people generally don't maintain the lands. There are so many barren lands. They do not sow the crops which are required for sustenance. So many people sow that tobacco and some fast cash crops and so in this way they misutilize the land and therefore there is some shortage. Otherwise, the land is enough. So when the body is fully supplied, then naturally the next stage is to revive senses. The Vedic prescribe therefore marriage for every sense. Thereby, one is gradually elevated to the platform release from material bondage. And the highest of liberated life is to associate with the Supreme Lord. Perfection is achieved by performance of yajna, sacrifice as described above. Now, if the person is not inclined to perform yajna according to Vedas, how can he expect a happy life even his body? And what to speak of another body or another planet? There are different grades of material comforts in different heavenly planets. In all cases, there is immense happiness for the person engaged in different kinds of yajna. But the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be promoted to the spiritual planets by practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna is therefore the solution to all the problems of material existence. So in a nutshell, uh, we can get the highest happiness if we practice Krishna consciousness. And it's a solution to all the problems of material existence. So not going for different things, one can directly do chanting and hearing and thereby go to spiritual world. So verse 32. एवं बहुविधायज्ञा वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजां विद्दितान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्षसे. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. So different sacrifices mentioned above are approved by Vedas, and they are born of different work. So therefore, these are bona fide, and this can make us liberated. So different types of sacrifices I discovered are mentioned in the Vedas to see different types of worker. So what happens is, if you ask Vedas what to do, they will say that, oh, practice spirituality, that practice Krishna consciousness, that is, you become devotee of Krishna, you will be liberated. But what happens is when we go to Vedas, we do not approach like this. We say that we want to enjoy this, or I want to worship this demigod, give me the way. So Vedas say, okay, I will give you the way, at least stay in the Vedic fold. So this is the way Vedas said. So if you ask Vedas directly, it will give us direct answers that what is to be done. But if we ask Vedas that what we need to do, then it will show a way in which that can be done. So that at least one is in the realm of Vedic literature and does not do haphazardly things so that he does not get any bad reaction of or vikarma. So verse number 33. So if we do some yajna, it will develop into knowledge or jnana. Sheyandavya mayadhyajnat jnana yajnat parantapa sarvam karma kilaparna jnane parisamapyate. O Chester of enemy, the sacrifice performing knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifice of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So, one who does sacrifice in knowledge is much better than sacrifice material possessions. So, therefore, Krishna says that one should do sacrifice with knowledge. The purpose of all sacrifice to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from materialism, and ultimately to engage loving Vishnu service of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Nonetheless, there is a mystery about all these different kinds of sacrifice, and one should know this mystery. Sacrifice sometimes takes different forms according to particular faith or performer. When one's faith reaches the highest of transcendent knowledge, the performer sacrifices uh, should be considered more advanced than those who are simply sacrificing material possession without such knowledge or without attainment of knowledge. Sacrifices remain on material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. So after doing sacrifices, if one does not have knowledge why using what, actually it will be only material benefit and no spiritual benefit. Real knowledge conversion based upon is the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, the sacrifice are simply material activities. When, however, the elevated level of transcendent knowledge, all such activities enter into spiritual platform. Depending on differences in consciousness, sexual activities are sometimes called karma kanda and sometimes jnana kanda. It is better to with the when the end is knowledge. So actually, there are two things. One is a sacrifice, one is conscious of person doing sacrifice. So therefore, the result of what one is doing depends on these two factors, and therefore one need to elevate his consciousness if want to progress fast in spiritual life. So verse number 34, how to gain knowledge. So now the process of attaining knowledge is given, or attaining jnana is given this verse, and then further verses will say what are the results of glories of this jnana. So how to attain knowledge is a very important verse, verse number 34. One can get so much information, that's not a problem. But if one wants knowledge or one wants transforming oneself, then this is the process to be followed. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashtena sevaya upadakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshibhi. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service to him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So, first of all, one need to approach spiritual master. Second, one should inquire submissively, not challengingly. And third, one should render some service to him. So just asking question does not help. One need to also serve the person. And the self-realized person shall impart knowledge to you because they have seen the truth. Then the knowledge will be revealed. So this three step, first to approach, then to inquire, and then to serve. There are three steps to be followed if one needs knowledge or one needs spiritual knowledge. And the self-realized souls will then definitely impart knowledge to you because they have seen the truth. The path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. So the path of spiritual is very, very difficult, not so easy. It looks easy, but and simple, but the simple thing, if you do for so many years, then it becomes complicated. And therefore, it's a difficult path, but compared to others, it's quite easy. Like Ashtanga yoga and all, Jnana yoga, it takes so many lifetimes. Whereas if one practices spiritual practices for maybe 2, 3 lifetimes also, or maybe in this lifetime, one can go back to God. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of religious succession from the Lord Himself. So because it's difficult, one needs guidance, and Krishna is saying us to approach a bona fide spiritual master. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following the principle of disciplic succession. So all the bona fide spiritual master come in disciplic succession. One follows his authority. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and the person in disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. So what happens is the guru gives knowledge to the disciple, then the disciple after some time becomes guru, he gives knowledge to his disciple. In this way, the parampara goes on. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process as expression of the foolish pretenders. Sometimes we see that so many people, they start their own spiritual organization and start some new ways of doing so many things. So this is not good, and this does not result in good of the people who are also following. The Bhagavatam says, Dharman to Sashat Bhagavad Pranitam. The path of religion is directly initiated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path. And therefore, we should not mentally speculate like this or this, or we should not argument like this or that. Nor by independent study of books or knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. So just by studying books will not get the knowledge. We need a personal guidance also. Otherwise, if this subject matter is not so easy to understand. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. So spiritual master can be either the Siksha Guru or Diksha Guru. So from both one can get knowledge. So one only has one Siksha Guru, but one can have many. Sorry, one can have only one Diksha Guru, but one can have many Siksha Gurus from where one can take knowledge. And if one wants knowledge, then one has to surrender and to do some menial services. That is without fault. Then the person can get the knowledge. Self-realized spiritual master is secret of advancement in spiritual life. It's very important. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is a secret of advancement in spiritual life. Inquiry and submission constitute the proper condition for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of spiritual master. When one sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically places the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding in this verse. In this verse, both blind following and upset implies the content. So one should not blindly follow anybody. One should check whether he is really a bona fide guru or not, or what is his standing. Check. And second, so one blind following should not be done, and absurd inquiry should also be not done. So we should not inquire something which does not lead us to a spiritual goal or which is out of context. So these both things should be done. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him. In submission, service, and inquiry, a bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind towards people. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to serve, when the service knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. So, spiritual master is kind, he wants to give knowledge, and the student is submissive and ready to render service. Then this reciprocation helps. Otherwise, just taking knowledge without service does not give full benefit. So this way, this is a process of getting knowledge. Now, verse number 35 speaks about how if one gets knowledge, one will not get bewildered, and this also bestows pure vision. यत्यात्वा न पुनर्मोहम् एवं याससि पांडवा येन भूतेन शेषानि रक्ष्यसि आत्मनि याथो मयि. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all livings are but part of Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So after getting this real knowledge from a self-realized soul, one will not be illusion again in this material world. So that is one will have chance to go back to God. And then one can also see that we are all part and parcel of Krishna. And that is the purpose of spiritual knowledge. The result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things they are, is learning that all living things are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jivera Sarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. So the Sarup of Krishna is that one is servant of Krishna, and all are part and parcel of Krishna. The sense of existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. Maya means not this. So something that we have nothing to do with Krishna, and that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and the absolute is the impersonal Brahman. So sometimes somebody say that whether Krishna is existing and we don't have faith in Krishna, and like this, there are arguments. Or he is some historical person, maybe some politician or some personality who has done some good, that's all. But actually, it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, this impersonal Brahman is the personal effulgence of Krishna. Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of everything. So for Krishna, everything comes, and he's the light which emanates from his body is the Brahma. Or the impersonal Brahman where people want to merge. In the Brahma Samhita, it's clearly stated that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of Sarva Karana Karana. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expressions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophy wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in the many expansions. This thought is material in nature. We have experienced in the material world that a thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses original identity. So we see when we have anything and we distribute among some other people, then what happens? The identity of the original thing is lost. But this thing is material. So in spiritual world, it doesn't happen like this. Because absolute is one, Krishna is one and equal to one. So 1 minus 1 is equal to 1 and 1 plus 1 is equal to 1. So there is no change in the Krishna. For want of sufficient knowledge in the absolute science, we are now poor with illusion. Then therefore we think that we are separate from Krishna. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, we are nevertheless not different from him. The body difference of the living entities is Maya or not actual fact. We are all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that the temporary body relationship with this Krishna was more important than eternal special identity with Krishna. So, in gist, I will tell you that what happens is because we are seeing the body day in, day out. So it's very easy to believe that we are this body, but we are not able to see the spirit soul which is there in our body. And therefore, to understand and to believe that we are spirit soul is very, very difficult. Because again, this material hammers us that we are this material body again every day. So therefore, this is very difficult, and therefore we are always in Maya material material energy. We are all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that his temporary body things is very important to him. So we think that these temporary things are more important than Krishna consciousness, and therefore people run after so many temporary things. The living entity is a separate part and parcel of the Supreme, have no ever purpose to fulfill. Having forgotten that purpose since time immemorial, that sphere in the different bodies with men, animals, and demigods, etc. Uh, the living entities, they have one purpose to fulfill, and that is to go back to Godhead. But what happens is because of so many time is gone, so this purpose is being forgotten, and therefore one does not see the Lord. When one is engaged in constant service to Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. One can acquire such pure knowledge only from bona fide spiritual master and thereby avoid the illusion of that the living entity is equal to Krishna. So, if we acquire pure knowledge from a bona fide spiritual master, then what happens is we not illusion that living entity in Krishna are one, or somebody say no, after doing something I'll become the supreme personality Godhead. So this will never happen. Krishna is Krishna and we are living entities. Perfect knowledge is that the supreme soul Krishna is the supreme shelter for all living entities. In giving up such shelter, the living entities are deluded by the material energy, imagining themselves to have a separate identity. Thus, under different standards of material identity, they become forgetful of Krishna. When, however, substituted living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation, as confirmed in Bhagavatam. Muktir hitva nandata rupam sarupena vyavasati. Liberation means to stay in one's conscious position with the eternal servitor of Krishna. So I think I will pause here. So